All right, welcome back. So let's dive deep into the concept of master material, material instance, and how does this work in Unreal Engine. So if you navigate here onto the bust and materials tab, you'll see there's a mHair sheet master here. And from a master, we can create several instances, okay? Instances are like childs and master is like the parent. So whatever changes you make to the master will affect the children, and whatever changes you make on the children will not affect the master. Okay, the big advantage of this is that you can create the one material that is being loaded onto your game, and then the instances are just exposed parameters that come from that, and they render cheap because you're only rendering one draw call, one material, and then the instance just renders whatever is different on that instance that will cause any difference to your asset. So imagine you have 5 hairs and they use 5 different types of textures. You can have the one master and then just have the textures loaded onto each instance. This way, some of the parameters like the reflectivity or whatever could be loaded just from the master once instead of 5 times, and then the textures would just be loaded individually on the instance. So this is the big advantage of it. But let's dive deep into this and open it. So I'm going to double click here and I'm going to bring this over, and let me try and open this as much as I can so we can see what's going on. And then I'm going to dive also into here, into our materials tab, and open our instance, okay? I'm going to bring the instance here to the side so we can see what's going on. So let's take a look at this master material. As you can see, there's a lot to it, okay? It's quite complex, and because the resolution on the screen, you won't see much at this distance, but just bear in mind that this is the output tab, okay? Basically where everything goes out, where it outputs a result of all the computations and everything that it's here, okay? Epic Games made a good job in trying to comment what's going on, okay? And if you follow these lines, you will understand what is going on really, okay? So let's take a look at the base color, for example. The base color comes from all this path here that has all this computation. It has textures here. It has colors that we can input in here. And also, eventually comes to the textures, to the 4 base raw textures that we apply, okay? So, all these are parameters, okay? For example, is dyed is a parameter that is exposed, and if it is, then it's going to make some calculations here, and you have this button exposed here is dyed. So if you want to have your hair dyed, you can try it through here. Use second UV channel for base color textures. This is a bool parameter, means true or false. And basically, you have that option here on the right as well on the instance. So all these parameters here, they're being exposed so that you have these little boxes that you can tick, okay? And the result is that you can tweak your hair individually while just having the one material, because the hierarchy, that's how it's going to work. This guy, the instance, will take all the information that it's computed here, but just the things you change is it going to compute, okay? So we have it raw at this moment, and right now we are just, I'm just going to drag this to the side here. You can look at it and you can see it's quite transparent there, and it's not suiting our hairstyle yet, but then we're gonna move all these parameters and make it look the best we can. So let's take a look in a big picture here and try to see a bit more how you can tweak this if you ever need to, okay? So these 2 textures is if you ever want to use a second UV root color or a second UV tip color, okay? So second UVs are made by just adding a second UV channel. If you don't know the concept of this, just don't worry much about it, okay? But basically, any object can have several UVs, and this material will understand that, and you will be able to give colors to that to textures, so that you can eventually have them reflect on your hair, okay? These here There's basically the root color and the tip color. There are two color parameters. Basically, if you click on them, you can see that you can change the default values here to whatever color you want. They have a linear interpolation that uses this one. So uses the root, okay? Because this is the tip color, it's just gonna remove the root from it, okay? Then another linear interpolation with the dye color if there is dye. And so we have that switch there. This is the diffuse texture if we want to use it. This is a parameter that is exposed, which just multiplies over everything here. And the use diffuse texture is a switch that will make this possible. This is exposed on the instance, of course. So this is just changes this switch between true or false, which then sends it over and continues to compute it, basically. This is a brightness parameter that is exposed on the instance, where you can basically make your hair brighter or darker. In here, we have the variation. The variation and the value variation is based on this texture here, which is the unique air value, okay, where there's 5 grades of grayscale, and it takes that parameter into here and basically does a U shift, okay? You don't need to understand all this. It's just for you, for those of you which are more advanced, if you want to tweak something, this is where you want to go, okay? These are all parameters. They say parameters, okay? These are all things that you can expose to an instance and eventually work it out and get a better result or a different result, okay? The metallic, for example, is plugged into here. You have the scatter parameter here, and you also have it coming from the dye mask, okay, which has a switch, which we can use the second UV channel, just like we talked, okay? So this is probably pretty confusing for you guys. It's basically mathematics. That's all it is, and it's the main part is that these are the textures that are coming with it, okay? This is the noise tiling and the depth, or the alpha from the depth. It's coming from here as well. So it just, which is the pixel depth offset, that all comes from here and goes into here. The pixel depth offset basically makes the hairs a lot softer, and it basically offsets the pixels that you see on your screen to go further away from the camera, depending on the distance that you added, and that is based on the height map that we have here as well. Okay, so the alpha is being considered by the is taking in consideration the height map as well. These are the normals, which you can tweak, okay, as well. Sometimes the reflections, you need them to go different direction. If you made the textures like me, you won't need to touch this much. But for example, if you make your texture from left to right instead of top to bottom, you might want to have to change these values here. Well, not here on the instance. And that's basically it. And this is the emissive. If you want to take an emissive, it's good to just follow a line and see whatever is involved into all this. Now let's just remove that and take a look now into the instance. I'm going to just minimize this. And so these are all the parameters that are exposed here. I'm going to try and put my hair kind of on this position here, so we can take a look, and I'm going to shrink this window a little bit. So the first thing we want to do here is to actually subtract the tip from depth. Okay, so the depth is giving an extra transparency to it because of the pixel depth offset. So what we want to do is just go here to the subtract tip from depth, click here, and then click here to activate it. And you'll see that immediately the hairs start to pop up a bit more. Okay, then we have on this all these values here. You see the pixel depth offset. We're set at 1. If we're at 0, you can see that the hairs are in one position, and if we put it at like 2, they will go away a bit. This is more easily noticed if you actually just turn this off. So with 2, we're there. At 10, we're there. You can see how the pixels are going away. If we put 0, they're all back here, but the hair has less depth. So this is an important concept, especially on the type of hair we're doing. So let's just subtract the tip from the depth, and the pixel depth of set, we can set it at 1. This will help on areas like the back, and just keep it there. So the brightness value, we can increase it. As you can see, it just increases the brightness of the hair, or we can decrease it to 0 if we want to just check what it does, and it will give us a kind of darker hair. So if you click this button here, it's just going to revert it to wherever it was. The edge masking, it's basically this process here. So if you take a look, it's quite transparent here on the sides, because on the edge it's being masked. So if we click here and put it to like 10, you can see that suddenly all the hairs come up. Okay, we don't want it to have it as like this as well, because it just gets too thick, I guess. So I guess a good value would be like 1, or in this case, let's just go with 0.7. And so we have a bit of transparency going, but at the same time we have we can see the shapes. Okay, this MIP map bias is basically the MIP mapping. MIP mapping is basically, as you go further away from the camera, the texture resolution will decrease to help the computation, because it assumes that it's not as important. If it's far away from the camera, then it's not as important to have the full resolution. So just leave it on and leave it like that. The roughness value, we can tweak as well. So if we go lower, it's going to get more reflective. And if we go higher, it's just going to get duller, so less rough. Let's put it to something like 0.33. Why not? The scatter is basically how the light scatters through your hair. So it basically bounces inside. If you remove it altogether, it's going to get too dark because light is not getting in. And if you go and overshoot it, it's going to get a lot of light inside. Okay, so on the scatter, I'm going to also use like 0.33. Why not? Okay. The tip power, the noise settling, all this we're not going to use for now, and the tip power is not necessary as well. But you basically can give more power to the tip in order for the transparency to work. That's all there is to it. If you click some of these buttons, like for example variation, you can see that it's going to give you a random color variation parameter here, which we can, for example, if we increase it drastically, you see that based on the ID map that we placed here, it's going to give us different hues for each hair. This might be something you want to use at some point. Obviously, this is an exaggeration just for you to see that each hair stranded is actually colored in a different manner. I'm not going to use it, but it is there if you want, and you can use the value as well to tweak that effect. Then these are the global static parameters. So if you're using for eyebrows, if your hair is emissive, so it means any glowing or anything, if you're using a second UV channel, if you are using a diffuse texture, which is right here. So use diffuse texture for base color, and that gives us a new parameter, and the shaders will start to compile. So if we want to use the texture we created, all we had to do now is to go to our textures, find our tutorial diffuse, and just place it in there. You need to turn it on, of course. So turn it on, put it there, and it's compiling the shaders. That's why it's gray. Once it's done, we're going to see the texture there. Okay, it got a bit darker. And in here, then, because we're using this, we could eventually turn on scatter more, or do something that will work better with the texture. I'm not going to use it because we just want to have a bit more control in this in Unreal. So I'm not going to use the diffuse texture. I need to remove it from here. And so we're back at these colors. Basically, these colors are the colors that we are setting our hair on. If we go here to our root color, and we make the color of the root really dark, you can see that it starts to darken the roots, darkens everything else as well because it just goes together. It's a grayscale value based on this map that is called the ramp. Okay, so if we do something dark like this and click OK, and then in here on the tip color, if we click and put it to like something very light, you'll see that the roots are dark and then it gets lighter. You can choose any color you like, really. So this has a lot of control to this. And it's quite cool. So let's just try and find something that goes with what we want, something like so for now. And as you can see, the hair starts to show up. It starts to bring. Now we need to take care of the lights as well, but this is basically all you need to take care on your material instance. Okay, you apply the material instance, and then you have all these values that you can work on. You don't really need to go into the master and touch it. All you need to do is just drag your textures here, choose the color here. If you want to use a diffuse texture, you can by just turning on these boxes here of the use the diffuse base color, and you'll be good to go. And from there, you just tweak your light, and then just start tweaking all these values until you have an air that looks the way you want it. Okay, so that said, I hope this just helps to clarify a little bit what material instances in the master is. This is quite a complex subject, of course, and it could be a bit confusing. It kind of is hard to explain in a 10-minute video, but basically the master material just controls everything and exposes all these parameters that you can use them for each air. So if I had another air, all I had to do is go to that master, right click, create new material instance, and then I would have a fresh new one to start. I could use any textures, any colors I like, and that would be it. Okay, so let's just close this for now, or minimize it rather, and take a look into our situation here and look at our hair. And now let's take a look into the lights as well. So the lights. Let's turn, this folder here has all the lights. So if you turn it off, it brings everything off. And if you turn off all others, you'll see what's going on. Okay. So this is an exponential height fog. Okay. It's just a bit of a mist going on in there, which works very nice with this air glow, which you can define by clicking it. And if you go up here to the intensity, it's at 0.4, but if you increase drastically, you'll see that it just blows everything away. If you put 0, it will just go away as well. Everything that is here is the height fog. So it was at 0.4. Let's go with 0.5, for example. You have a bit of glow in there. Let's start tweaking these lights one by one. This is the first one, the main light, so I'm going to leave that for last. Let's just do the rim lights first. I find this light rather too much on the back. If you press G on your keyboard, you will see that it's kind of right behind it. And I kind of wanted to go over to this side and just come a bit more from the side. Maybe a bit more. And rotate it. Okay, I'm changing again between Q, W, and E. That's how you change. It's the same for all the tools that we've been using, basically. And we can increase the intensity here a little bit, just to try and get a bit more of a rim light there. See how this works? If it gets too much, then you can shrink it as well. So let's just leave it like so for now. And then turn it off, bring on the other one. This is just here on the side. Let's just keep that one for now. This one as well. This one is the other rim light, which is working pretty well. If we want to go here and increase the intensity a little bit, we can. Okay, something like so. And then turn both on, which would be this actor 2, and see that now if we press G, we have kind of a cool rim light going on. Okay, it's a bit too intense on this side, so let's just go to this one and just reduce it a bit. Something like this, I think it's better. So great. Now this one here, it just gives us a bit more light on this side. You can increase it. You can use just the one to have some cool renderings as well. So maybe it's too much. So let's just give it a bit of light there. This one here is the front light, which we can tweak after we tweak the main light there. So let's just bring this over, this one, and click on it and see it's at 2000. So this one here, number 3, we're going to increase a little bit up to here. And so now we can go back into our instance, which we can do so by just doing that and clicking here and opening up. And if you get all these lines here, you can just press G so they go away. You take a look at your hair again, and maybe we can make the root a bit darker even. And this we can try and do a bit more of a color. Something like that. It's great. Now let's just take a look at the lights again. So if we close that, maybe there's too much light from that side there. Here. If I go to this one and just decrease it a bit, it's going to give me more of a cinematic feel here. And that's important to actually see it from all angles, okay? So let's do a turntable here, which we can do by simply doing this. We go to cinematics here on the top, and we add a level sequence, okay? They ask us where we want to put it. You can put it right on the tutorial folder, and why not? Just click save. And this screen will pop up, okay? This is basically a slider that will go from beginning to the end. And that's all there is to it. And you just have to add your meshes here. So let's do this. I'm just going to drag it out of the window for a second here so I can tell you what I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to click the final mic and just delete it out of here. And then I'm going to go into my place actors part on the basic. I'm going to just put a sphere right here in the front. I'm going to click R on my keyboard, and I'm going to just shrink this up so it's small, okay? And then on the location, I'm going to put it on 0 on X and 0 on Y. And that's going to put the sphere right in the middle somewhere in front here. Okay? So since that is in the middle, and you can see that my head is not really in the middle, we're going to go and grab everything that is part of the head. So 1 eye, 2 eyes, the head final, the lashes final, the props, and the teeth, everything, and the tutorial here. And because our pivot point is right there, we're just going to bring it a bit to the side here. And then try and see if our sphere is more or less in the middle. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so this way, when the sphere rotates, it's going to rotate everything. Which is by doing this. Grabbing everything again, and just pulling it, dragging it by clicking and dragging onto the sphere, okay? So if you turn off the sphere now, everything goes away. And this sphere, you can click to rename, and we're going to choose and call it controller. Okay? So now that we have this, you can see that if you rotate the sphere, you're going to rotate the whole thing. Okay? That's great. So if you Control Z this out, it should bring it back to normal. And here we go. On the level sequencer, which I've just brought into my screen now, you can just click here, add actor to sequencer, and just choose the controller. And on the rotation, you're going to choose on this spot here at 0, you're going to choose 0 degrees, which is fine. So just click here on the plus button and it adds a keyframe. And then when you go up to here, up to the last one and choose 360 degrees, it created a keyframe there. And now as you rotate it, you'll see that everything will rotate. So I'm going to move this off my screen. I'm just going to rotate this slider. I'm going to click G here so I don't see all the stuff from Unreal. If I click F11, it's going to just full screen this out. And then moving my slider on my other screen, I can just rotate and start looking at my hair in a different manner. So this is how you put a hair in Unreal Engine. You can use this level sequencer. It has a button here to create your own turntable, so you can render a video with this. You can choose the amount of steps and all that and the frames per second right here as well. It's not hard to figure out. You just need to click it and select your settings and render it. And this will be our final hair in Unreal Engine. Okay. So if now we bring our material instance here again, you can see that you can tweak the colors any way you like. Okay. You can go as dark or as bright as you want, including gray. Okay. So that would be, you can still tweak the root color independently. So if you want to have like a more of a bluish tone on the beginning and have, or a purple one, and then you want to have like green or yellow towards the end, you can see how this is working and affecting the through the ramp map that you have there. So roots get one color and the tips get another color. You can get pretty wild effects with this. I'm just trying to exaggerate to see, so you can see the potential of what you have here. And in here, so I'm going to choose like a dark brown, maybe really dark, like so. And on the tips, we're going to go with something like more reddish. That looks like hair. Something like so. I want to go really wild on this, just more color, a bit less dark, a bit more red. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this. So yeah, here for games in Unreal Engine 4. If you want to take pictures out of this, you can simply go here, high resolution screenshot, and then you choose the resolution you want. I wouldn't advise you to go as high as that. Just screenshot size multiplier is just the 1.0. It's just the size of the pixels that you have on your screen. Okay. If you go 2, it's giving you the double already. So that's more than enough. If you click here, take screenshot, it's going to take a screenshot for you. It's going to take a bit of time. And once it's done, you can find it right here on the Yahoo, right here. So UE4 project, whatever you put it, there's a digital human folder, then saved, then screenshots, then Windows, and there we have it. And this will be our static photograph with resolution of 2.0. If we want to go with 3, it's just going to increase further. So up to you really, but you can take all the screenshots you want. You can also render a video with our level sequencer, just doing a turntable, and you're pretty much set to go. Great.